Welcome to this special Thanksgiving guided meditation on the Day of Gratitude. I'm honored to guide you through a journey of appreciation, reminding ourselves of the simple yet profound reasons to be thankful. Find a comfortable position, whether sitting or lying down. Close your eyes and let's begin by taking a deep, cleansing breath. Inhale gratitude and exhale any tension or worries. As we embark on this journey of thankfulness, reflect on the air in your lungs. With each breath, acknowledge the gift of life. Feel the life force within you and recognize the interconnectedness of all living beings sharing this precious air. Now, turn your attention to the sustenance we receive from the earth. Imagine yourself standing at the foothills of the majestic Colorado Rockies. The air is crisp, and the scent of pine surrounds you. As you take a deep breath, feel the cool mountain air filling your lungs. Envision a hidden oasis, a vast green meadow surrounded by towering peaks. The grass beneath your feet is soft, and wildflowers sway gently in the breeze. You are embraced by the tranquility of this sacred space. As you continue to explore, notice the pristine beauty that surrounds you. Flowing streams weave through the meadow, and the mountains stand as ancient sentinels. Allow a profound respect for Mother Nature to fill your heart. In this oasis, you are not a separate observer, but an integral part of the intricate web of life. Embrace the harmony of nature. Feel the energy of the mountains, the vitality of the grass beneath your feet. Picture a bountiful harvest, a symbol of the nourishment that Mother Earth provides. Feel gratitude for the food on your plate, recognizing the energy and care that went into its creation. Consider the planet that sustains us, providing air and food. Visualize a vibrant, healthy Earth, teeming with life. Feel a sense of responsibility to care for this planet that gives so generously. Extend your gratitude beyond your immediate surroundings. Envision a world where borders blur and there are no countries, only one interconnected planet. Feel the unity in diversity and recognize that we share this world as one global community. As you bask in this sense of unity, reflect on the diverse tapestry of humanity. Each person, regardless of nationality or background, has the right to live and let live. Let gratitude fill your heart for the rich tapestry of cultures that enrich our shared existence. In this moment of gratitude, commit to showing appreciation, not just in words, but through actions. Consider how you can contribute to the well-being of the planet and its inhabitants. Whether through sustainable choices, acts of kindness, or fostering understanding, let your gratitude manifest in positive deeds. As we conclude this Thanksgiving-guided meditation, slowly bring your awareness back to the present. Open your eyes with a renewed sense of gratitude for the gift of life, the abundance of the earth, and the unity of humanity. Thank you for sharing in this journey of gratitude. May your heart be filled with appreciation today and every day. If you found this meditation meaningful, please like, subscribe, and share. Wishing you a Thanksgiving filled with love, gratitude, and connection.